Welcome to Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki, where inspiration meets action. This is your spot to grow, level up, and lead with fresh ideas. From sales to service, from frontline teams to executives, we're dropping weekly knowledge and insight to keep your store sharp, relevant, and profitable. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody, to Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki. Today, we're going to talk about something that every dealership is facing. It's about turning technology into results. You know what I'm saying? And this is something that all of us are looking for when a return on investment. My guest, Joshua Bagley, he's the head of after sales at Matador AI. He leads teams. He's going to be that guy that's making sure that we actually see success from the AI tools. And I kind of felt like it would be great to have him on here because he's had so much experience onboarding, focused on client success and performance optimization in the stores. So maybe, Josh, you could give us like a little intel on some of the big things that are popping right now at Matador AI. You've said that your mission is to make AI tools actually work in the store environment. So why is implementing often where the wheels fell off the tech?
Yeah, so obviously with any tool, like it all sounds great in the demo pitch, right? But when you get into everyday implementing it into your processes, using the tool, the adoption from your salespeople, from your BDC, and one of the big things with AI, obviously, is not feeling like it's going to replace humans, like being an assistant, and that's where we
Sure.
kind of build our platform from the ground up on that goal, right? Is making humans more efficient and making the adoption and use every day easier.
Yeah, but so a lot of times people will buy an AI tool and then they plug it into the dealership. And then, like I said, the wheels just fall off, and it's not only it's not necessarily the tech. It's also just the way that people execute. Is there some advice or something that you see that can really help that dealership get that tech working?
Yeah, so I mean, with anything, obviously the buy-in from the top down, making sure all managers are involved. We start our process off where we have a kickoff call, and that always helps. We always try to invite everyone, and making sure that everybody not only has the buy-in but has input when you're training the AI and setting this up. So everybody has, their fingerprint on it, right? So it's something that they've built together. So it's not just a rollout where they're not involved in that. So always having to make sure that everybody has their input, regardless if it's a BDC manager, GM, or dealer principal. Everybody has their own fingerprint on AI and how it's answering, how it's responding. So you have their kind of their pulse, right? So they see a extension of themselves in the tool and feeling involved and even getting excited about it. It really helps a lot.
Okay, I like this. This is basically like a beginning phase of executing the product. Everybody's got a finger on it, as you mentioned, but this means that everybody's sort of looking over the product and how it's working or how it's not working, and actually talking about the successes, the fails, the progress together. It's not just like, oh, we got this new tool, hope it works. It's that everybody from the jump is that what you're saying, is collabing on, hey, we gotta keep an eye on this thing. Hey, we gotta do our part in measuring the success of it.
Yeah, just collaboration across all the departments as well. Like a lot of AIs, obviously you have the sales side and service, and maybe your BDC is handling it and your sales team isn't, right? Just having that collaboration in between all the different departments and all the different teams where they feel it's another, think of it as, instead of just hiring a platform and a vendor, it's a part of your team. Like it's just an extension of your team that's working alongside. So you have that introduction to all of your, you hire somebody new, you're not going to throw them in the corner and say, hope
Hope you
Jen
make
works.
it.
Yeah, hope you make it. Like, I mean, some dealers are like that, unfortunately, still, but but having that collaboration in between, and it's basically an extension of your team and another team member, right? It's everybody having a personal assistant. So you want to, it's very involved in the day to day, throughout the customer's life cycle. Which most AIs are, right? So just making sure that everybody is kind of on the same page, has their thumbprint on it again, and is part of the team.
Yeah, that's a great onboarding strategy. I really like this. And I should have started this by asking about maybe even prior to um a dealer team agreeing on a product. A lot of times I work in stores and I see them, they'll ask me, "Oh, what do you think about this tool, Jen?" Or, "Hey, have you used this in another dealership?" And I always find myself saying this to them. If you're thinking about a product, don't think about it all alone. This is not a solo event. I would
Sure.
strongly suggest that you bring everybody that would be a part of it, just like you would when you're interviewing candidates. You want to have everybody involved in this conversation to decide if it is, in fact, a great product for everybody. Is if everybody's making the decision, don't you feel that executing and onboarding a new product becomes a lot smoother when everybody's made the decision together?
For sure, yeah, for sure, Jen, and really, not just having obviously everybody's input on that, even from the demo, like going through and making sure it's a good fit. We all know that some tools may fit one store and not the other, right?
Mm.
Depending on your processes in store. But even further than that, seeing how it's going to affect different departments, right? So, and having that interdepartment, collaboration and having that decision on how it's going to affect every role day to day, right? So maybe this is something you implement in just your BDC, but obviously it's going to have some impact on your sales team and sales managers. So yeah, having everybody from the beginning involved in that, and be involved in building this out together, as a solution using any AI is definitely where we see the biggest success.
I've heard people on your team say client success pods. Is that like something you coined, or is that what you're talking about right now? Or what is this?
Yeah. So first off, obviously for us, we go through onboarding. You get somebody that's more technical and setting up integrations and stuff normally for the first 30 to 45 days. But then, yeah, you get partnered with a performance manager, but they work
Okay.
internally in between a pod. So your performance manager, is your go-to, works with you day in and day out, monthly. Most dealers prefer a quarterly performance review because you guys are busy selling cars and don't want to get on a call with a vendor every month. But they're your go-to AI experts in helping you train the AI, make any adjustments, making sure it's really implemented and it's used day to day, and keeping that early on adoption and engagement and excitement going.
Mm.
A lot of platforms, and we sign up for this new tool, like you just said, really excited for the first month, and then it kind of dwindles down and moving on to the next. So your performance manager, keeps you engaged, keeps any new team members trained. But they work within a kind of a pod, right? So there's 4 or 5 in that group. They'll have a team lead, but they
Okay.
kind of work and collaborate. It's still again internally within each other. So maybe you're running across a challenge at a dealership that they haven't run across within their book of accounts. They'll communicate that internally within that group and try to find solutions, right? So where the
Mm.
reason for this, obviously, back when we were a startup and had a few accounts, we liked the collaboration in between all of our team, right? We liked that we were able to very, very easily, throw out a challenge at one of our team members that worked in client success, and we got an answer back pretty quick, right? Obviously, as you scale, we wanted to keep that same mentality. But that, asking 100 different people is a little bit more difficult than asking your smaller team. So this is kind of the middle ground in being able to keep that smaller team collaborative boutique approach, but as we scale, right? So
That's a very strong approach to customer service. That's how I translate it. Because at the end of the day, this is still new tech to a lot of stores. It's still in less than 10% of the dealerships out there, some sort
sure.
of AI, So we're all those that are listening that are already users, you're ahead of the game. Welcome and congrats. But the truth is that the reason why a lot of people will toss something out is because they're not getting the support that they need from these tools. And I see that because I work in the dealerships, and that's the most common thing that they say. It doesn't matter how great the product is. If they can't support me, they can't give answers, they can't modify the product, based on some of our feedback, then they're out. That's not for us. So this is why I really like what you're saying. And I do think that when you're vetting companies that you have an extreme, I'm going to call this an extreme, collab internally. It's not one person. That's usually what happens in stores, or they have to call a call center. You have a pod. And I'd like to really understand the difference, because this is where a lot of companies fail.
Yeah, so ultimately, all accounts would have that we have a performance manager assigned, and like you were saying, Jen, is being able to support your client. The one thing that's big in AI is working with a company that's nimble and being able to make adjustments quick as times change. Every day there's something new in AI,
That's tough.
new updates. And you don't want to partner with somebody that's going to take 6 months to have new updates. On our part, we actually just did one this morning. It's normally about every 2 weeks.
Every
There's
two
some kind of
weeks.
platform update, right? So AI changes day in and day out. Like, you can probably look back to remember when ChatGPT was all over the news and something new. And even since then, I don't know if you've used anybody watching use any kind of the video tools like with ChatGPT, and seen the difference just in maybe 6 months, how far it comes.
Oh, it's
Right. So
extraordinary.
yeah, so being able to work with a partner, obviously, to be able to implement those things into your dealership, as fast as they're coming out, and not falling behind, right? So that's kind of where we strive, right, and making sure we're nimble with those adjustments.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is really good information, because I think you guys have figured out, and I'm sure that you've had a lot of pains to achieve this gain that really meets the mark, by the way. And what I notice a lot of times is that people will roll out new technology, and there's a lot of people in the stores that's going to resist change.
Sure.
And I find that this is the next set of challenges. How do you help dealership teams? Like, how do you help them adopt AI without getting in the way? Because this is what they'll say. They'll just be like, it's getting in the way of my day-to-day stuff. And
Yeah.
so, but we have to do it, it's so how do you pull this off?
So one of the biggest things in our process, and how we set up AI is solely an assistant, right? So with our particular situation, when a customer replies or there's an inbound message from a customer, we always give in our tool, mostly, most setups are going to prefer giving that salesperson the first opportunity to reply,
Mm,
and have AI reply when they don't, like when they're not available, they're on a test drive, right? Or they're off that day, they're off to lunch, whatever it is. So that's when it would reply. So it's not jumping in on top of anyone. It's only going to reply after that time. Kind of, if you put a visualization on it, like a timer,
mm,
on that, on when that time's going to expire, that's when AI is going to reply and kind of work alongside you. And being able to those sales teams that are kind of resistant to that change, and feels like AI is taking their job, which we always see all over the place, and kind of replacing their daily task. That makes a big difference, right? Treating the AI again like an assistant, and
mm-hmm,
getting them to understand that this is going to help them sell more cars, and kind of pitching it that way, right? So we all know that top sales consultant at high performing stores that has 3 or 4 people that's their own personal assistant. This is
mm-hmm.
giving all of your sales team and even BDC an assistant, right? So when you present it that way, and get those people that are resistant to change and share with them how it's going to help them, and be their assistant when they're not available, and
Mm.
even set appointments. They come in the morning and they have an appointment set from that overnight lead. That normally gets them to buy in pretty quick, and be less resistant, right? So that 2 a.m. lead you got in, you come in the morning, you log into Matador, and you see you've got an appointment at noon, for that lead you haven't even touched yet, and you see a whole conversation, a whole back and forth. You start to have that buy-in and kind of have a less
You start to
resistance.
have a really positive Monday, because
Yeah,
the truth is that a lot of stores are closed on Sundays. So that Monday morning rush is real. But what you're saying is, I walked in on Monday and it was handled. And I already got appointments. And you're getting credit for these on top of it? I mean, let's go.
yeah. You just wording it as an assistant, right? So this is the going to be your assistant, not here to replace you. We're not, at least any of us that are sales professionals, we're not in a world yet where AI is going to replace us, but giving us a little more help,
No,
be more productive and be more efficient is where you want to
that's the
implement AI in
trick.
your process.
That's really the trick. And I think that a lot of times when sales or BDC, they actually see the pain point and they are aware and they admit that there is a pain point. Listen, nobody likes to chase ghosts. I don't. I love to plug in AI. I don't want to do mundane tasks. I want to call people, talk to them, do what I do best, build relationships. And AI isn't really going to be able to do those things. That's not its strength. Its strength is mundane tasks, and so there really is a hybrid here. And I do think that we are reshaping roles. And I do think that when frontline sees and recognizes their own pain points and that you can help solve that, now we're getting somewhere. Well, you have a strong understanding of, sales and service, and I've used your tool in both departments. And I'm just curious, what do you see as the biggest opportunities right now in the stores, leveraging AI? Let's just start with fixed ops.
Yeah, really, service is keeping those customers coming back into the service drive. A lot of dealers aren't, kind of maintaining those relationships long term. Yeah, they get direct mail or maybe email here and there, but obviously using a text message first approach there and keeping those customers, warm, coming back in if they haven't been in 6 months. Keeping those conversations going. The best part about AI is normally all conversational, right? So that customer that hasn't been in 6 months gets a message, hey, Jen, I noticed you haven't had an oil change in a while. Are you ready to get that appointment scheduled? It's keeping it conversational. Most of the customers don't know it's AI on the other end. And just, continuing those relationships after the sale into service and throughout the customer's life cycle in service. And then slowly, when it gets to that year 3 or 4, slowly kind of mentioning, you're looking to considering an upgrade, still enjoying your Silverado or considering something new, right? Kind of like putting that soft approach into getting those customers back into the showroom. But on the AI side, definitely nurturing those customers throughout their service life cycle is where we see, like you're saying, 10% of dealers are using AI. Obviously more on the sales side than service, but service is definitely where we see kind of
the biggest
opportunity. Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, this is where we nurture loyalty. This is where we keep our customers. And the reality is that there are service BDCs, but shockingly, not every dealership has one. And even if they do, they oftentimes are handling inbound calls and they're not doing a lot of outbound work. That is true. I work at a lot of dealerships. And so this is where I see you solving a problem that most dealers don't even know that they have, which is able to listen, I call it poking. I'm like, it's time to poke. We need to poke our sold database and ensure that we stay connected to them in a way that's helpful. So when you're trying to help them schedule an oil change or use complimentary maintenance that hasn't been done or remind them of a recall that needs to be sorted out, these are all helpful things, but we don't need people to do all those
We
tasks.
need
We
people.
can't
People need to talk to. Yeah, people need to talk to people, and once those customers are engaged into a conversation,
That's
obviously,
it.
you pick it up.
AI ignites it.
Yep, yeah, getting those customers engaged and igniting it, like you said, Jen, and then from there, your service BDC can take over if they're available again. If not, then AI can continue the conversation. But
There you go.
nobody likes sending repetitive templates out to a list of customers, right? So
Yeah.
you can automate all of that and use AI in between to keep those customers coming back into the service drive.
Yeah, very relevant. I see this working. I love internal lead gen. There we go. Lastly, I'm curious about how you keep people motivated, and aligned around customer outcomes because, it's just not really always about internal metrics. And you're a leader there of after sales teams, so how do you keep people motivated and aligned around, just the outcomes of our customer contacts?
Yeah, so obviously we're always looking at retention and keeping customers happy, but we're lucky to have on our end a really good team. A lot of us have automotive background.
Yeah.
So we really see we see the challenge and we see us solving those challenges. And obviously that keeps people motivated when you see a challenge or a dealer presents you a challenge and you have an answer and you're able to see those results. And you're obviously able to see those, so let's go back to service. You're able to see the growth in ROs in the service drive, and you obviously feel achieved from that. But luckily we're luckily to have a lot of our client success team that have experience from in store and the dealership world. in both sales and service. So when they see those challenges, instead of them working in a dealer and solving those challenges, now they have, multiple dealers are having to help. So we take a
Wonderful.
consultative approach, on that. So instead of just being your client success manager and answering questions when you happen to reach out and email them, we'll see a challenge, and we like solving those. So
This is great. This is great. Okay. Okay. I tricked you. Okay. I'm curious. Do you have one last piece of advice for our listeners, dealerships that are, trying to roll out a new technology, remaining this year and maybe going into next year? What's your advice?
Yeah, really, just if you're going through those demos like we mentioned in the beginning, going through and involving as much as your team as
Okay.
possible, really looking in
Advice.
depth into the functionality, not getting any tricked by smoke and mirrors. Like we all know salespeople, you can something might look great on the surface, but when you get into it and how it's going to operate in your day to day,
Doesn't quite play out the same way.
yeah, not quite the product you signed up for. Just so making sure that it's going to work for your day to day, it's going to work for your store, get movement towards your ultimate goals, and really looking at how it's going to change your the end user, right? So maybe your GM or dealer principal looking at this tool, really looking into how it's going to affect my users day to day. How many more clicks is it going to be for them, and how easy it is to implement without a lot of changes to your process, and making sure it's nimble, asking those questions, right? That how often they have updates, and kind of throwing out some challenges that you have and see what the answer is for those, to see if there's a solution for it. So.
Excellent. Well, everybody listening, just remember this. Adoption beats innovation every time.
Sure.
And I want to thank you for taking the time to share a little of your insights on how AI works. And I like really how you connected implementation to performance, not only performance, but culture too, really, because it's really just not the tech alone that's going to drive the results. It's really all the people that are using it that drive the results.
Yeah, definitely the people that are using it day to day, and then the support behind that, right, on the product, right, having that support behind you
That's it.
when you need it.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki. Don't forget, my weekly live classes are designed to keep your team fired up, skilled up, and focused on results. Subscribe right now at edealersolutions.com. See ya!